this computer. Yeah, because let's start with the recording. Hello everyone. Today it's just Bhushan and I, and we miss everyone. So please join the calls. It's really good to have you here while on the call so that we can share and then we can discuss. But with that in mind, we are beginning. We'll keep it a short session today between the two of us. I'll start with the prayers. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskrityam Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Mudirayet Nashtaprayeshu Abhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavate Uttama Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Nashtiki. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. So, welcome again, everyone. We have been discussing the first chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, setting up the scene where we started with how the armies were laid out, right? How Arjuna wanted to see who is on the battlefield, who is on the either side of the army before starting to fight. We saw the various conch shells being blown and signaling the start of the war basically. So back in the day, back when wars used to happen, there was a military code of conduct. It's still there today, but not quite. But back in the day, there was a strict code of conduct that was followed. And by the way, Bhushan, can you see my screen with the Bhagavad Gita
Yes, I can see
list of
it.
verses? Okay, perfect. Yeah. So we saw that the code of conduct was followed, and then they started the war. They started blowing up their their trumpets and horns, etc. And we saw the names of the various conch shells, and it kind of created an uproarious situation, a situation where Arjuna knew that there is something impending, something major about to happen. And so, with that in mind, we started with Arjuna's observation of the armies. So we looked until last week we looked at verse number 30th actually. We looked at 31 also, but 30th. So Arjuna is now observing the armies. Arjuna is seeing who has come here to fight, and he's asking Krishna that let's draw the army let's draw the chariot in between. And now, as Arjuna was looking, he saw his grandfather, he saw his fathers, he saw his teachers, he saw his brothers, he saw his cousins, father-in-laws, brothers, sons, grandsons, etc. So, having seen all of these people, now Arjuna is in a situation where he is overwhelmed by compassion. And that's when we saw the first ever reason for why Arjuna didn't want to fight. So, from verse 28 onwards, we see that here that Arjuna is saying that my body is quivering and my mouth is drying up. My whole body is trembling. My hair is standing on an end, and my bow is slipping from my hand, and my skin is burning. I can't stand here any longer. I'm forgetting. My mind is reeling, and I only see causes of misfortune. So, with this situation, Arjuna said that I cannot fight Krishna. Why? Because I feel compassion for them. They are my friends, they are my brothers, they are my relatives, they are my cousins, they are my grandsons, they are my well wishers. How can I kill them? There is no way. So that's the first reason that we saw from verse 28 to 38. So these three verses were the first reasons for why Arjuna didn't want to fight. And we also looked at how we are faced with these situations also in our life, where there are circumstances where we are unable to deal with situations where something comes up and really there is no hope for us in that way, and we experience these symptoms, whether it be a major decision that we need to take, or whether it's a situation that we don't want to face, or whether it's just compassion for somebody. We are trying to avoid a situation, but it shows up and we anticipate it, we know, and now we are faced in. How do we deal with that? So that's one of the major life lessons that Bhagavad Gita will answer actually. So currently with this, it's only giving us the problems of why these things happen. And Krishna again speaks further as we go into more chapters as to why these problems come up. Why is Arjuna feeling this way, right? That's the question. Why is Arjuna feeling this way, and what can he do when he's in a situation? And what can we do when we are in these situations as we navigate life? So that was the first reason that we looked at last week and up until today, building up this. Now today we'll look at second reason, maybe third reason. We'll keep it a short meeting today. because I want to ensure that we are pacing. So maybe we'll look at just a second reason and call it quits. And then as more people join, we'll have our third and fourth reason. Because I really want to engage now as we are going into these. I want to have a back and forth between people actually, so that we can hear ideas, we can discuss ideas, we can question and answer. Because Bhagavad Gita itself describes how Bhagavad Gita should be read and understood. So in the 10th chapter, Krishna explains that bodhayantas parasparam, that Vedic scriptures, Vedic discussions are bodhayantas parasparam, in the sense that you share something, you hear something, you apply it. Then there is something also called as Shastra Nipunata. That means that you look at various Shastras. You just don't look at Bhagavad Gita in isolation, because Bhagavad Gita is part of an entire Vedic canon. It's a huge canon. There's a lot more text there. So Bhagavad Gita also should be looked at in conjunction with all the other scriptures that we have. So that are two ways actually of how Bhagavad Gita is understood. And again, Bhagavad Gita itself, if you look at Krishna and Arjuna, it's a conversation at the end of the day. So I want to ensure that we have these conversations as we move forward. So with that in mind, we saw the first reason why Arjuna said he doesn't want to fight, and that's his compassion. And because of that compassion, because of the being overwhelmed, and because of it unable to think, we can see that Arjuna is experiencing these bodily symptoms. It's also called as psychosomasis or psychosomatic effects that we have previously that I talked about, that how our psyche affects our physical nature, our physical actions, and how by changing our psyche we can change the way we act, we can change the way we face the world. And Arjuna, he was living in the world with a particular mental model, and that mental model may apply, may not apply, and that's why Arjuna has been struggling here. Now, verse number 31st. So we'll start with the second reason of why Arjuna doesn't want to engage in this warfare. So verse 31. न चेश्रेयोऽनुपश्यामि हत्वा स्वजनम् आहवे नाकाङ्क्षे विजयं कृष्णा न च राज्यं सुखानि च न nor cha also shreyah good anupashyami do I foresee hatva by killing swajanam own kinsmen ahave in the fight na nor kankshe do I desire Vijayam, victory. Krishna, O Krishna, na, nor. Cha, also. Rajyam, kingdom. Sukhani, happiness thereof. Cha, also. Translation. I do not see how any good can come from killing my own kinsmen in this battle, nor can I, my dear Krishna, desire any subsequent victory, kingdom, or happiness. So now Arjuna is giving the second reason. He's saying that I do not see what good will come out of it. So now, first is compassion, second is outcome. He said, I don't desire victory, I don't desire kingdom, I don't desire happiness. I am above all this. I understand I am a spiritual being and my happiness doesn't lie in material activities. So I really don't want any of these things that we are fighting for, Krishna. So then why are we engaged here, right? So that's the second reason Arjuna is giving, that what good is coming out of it actually. Try to understand all of our actions that we do, right? We do with an end in mind as to what we are hoping to achieve out of that. And Arjuna, the ends that he's seeing out of his, it is victory, kingdom, happiness, none of the things that he wanted. So he said that why am I engaged here, right? And that's a very valid question on Arjuna's behalf. That really, if you don't want, then what's the reason, Arjuna? Why is Arjuna there? And we can also sometimes think in such terms, right? That why am I doing this again? What's the point? But then when we understand a higher principle, oh, this is the reason why, then we engage and then we understand why we do certain actions. So similarly in our life also, there are situations, right? That what are we hoping to get out of our life? We get into this situation, and we have previously touched upon this idea of self-realization, that how that's one of the main goals of Bhagavad Gita. So Arjuna, being in such a situation where he doesn't know who he is, he doesn't know what's going to happen. That's the reason why Arjuna is feeling this way, right? If Arjuna is seeing this from a perspective of a warrior, of just a human being, that okay, I am this human, I am this family member, and this is what's happening, that I am in this warfare with my colleagues, but I don't want to engage in this. But Arjuna, again, we looked at how you need to change your mental model, and now Arjuna needs to truly understand that as a spirit soul, as a Kshatriya, he has a duty to perform, and that duty overpowers. But Arjuna currently has not reached there. So we'll see in second and third chapters how Krishna actually gives Arjuna the entire idea about what is duty, how do you act on the duty, and how do you perform your duty. right? So that's the thing. And then Prabhupada again here further he's explaining that how Arjuna is feeling, that he's reluctant to even kill his enemies. He knows that they are his enemies. He's reluctant to kill them. He doesn't want any happiness. He just doesn't want. Just like a person who does not feel hunger is not inclined to cook, right? So if you don't know, if you don't have hunger, why would you cook? So similarly, if you don't want the outcome of something, then why would you want to do that activity? Right? So it's a very valid reason that Arjuna gives, and he considers himself fit to go to the forest. He says that, you know what, Krishna, let it be. I might just go to the forest and be done with it. Okay, verse 32 to 35. So now this concludes the second reason. What do the verses say? Kim no rajyena govinda kim bhogera jivitena va yesham arthe kankshitam no rajyam bhoga sukhani cha ta ime vastitha yuddhe pranam tyaktva dhanani cha acharya pitara putras tathaiva cha pitamaha मातुला स्वसुरा पुत्रा पौत्रा श्यालया संबदिनास्तथा एतान्न हन्तुम् इच्छामि ज्ञातोऽपि मधुसूदन अपि त्रैलोक्यराज्यस्य हेतो किं नु मही कृते निहत्या धृतराष्ट्रानं नः कीर्तिशाय जनार्दन. Okay, so what is Arjuna saying? Kim, what use? Nah, to us. Rajyena, is this kingdom? Govinda, O Krishna. Kim, what? Bhoge, enjoyment. Jivitena, living. Va, either. Yesham, of whom. Arthe, for the sake. Kankshitam, is desired. Nah, by us. Rajyam, kingdom. Bhogaha, material enjoyment. Sukhani, all happiness. Cha, also. Te, all of them. Ime, these. Avasthitaha, situated. Yuddhe, on this battlefield. Pranan, lives. Tyaktva, giving up. Dhanani, riches. Cha, also. Acharyaha, teachers. Pitaraha, fathers. Putraha, sons. Tatha, as well as. Eva, certainly. Cha, also. Pitamahaha, grandfathers. Matula, maternal uncles. Swasuraha, fathers-in-law. Pautraha, grandsons. Syalaha, brothers-in-law. Sambandhina, relatives. Tatha, as well. Etan, all these. Na, never. Hantum, to kill. Ichhami, do I wish. Gnataha, being killed. Api, even. Madhusudana, O killer of the Madhu, demon Krishna. Api, even if Trailokya, of the three worlds. Rajyasya, for the kingdom. Hetoho, in exchange. Kimnu, what to speak of. Mahikrate, for the sake of the earth. Nihatya, by killing. Dhritarashtra, the sons of Dhritarashtra. Nah, our. Ka, what. Pritihi, pleasure. Syat, will be there. Janardana, O maintainer of the living entities. Okay, so as I read this huge four verses, actually 32 to 35, few things immediately became clear, right? First, we can see that there are various names that that Arjuna is using. He has used the word Govinda, right? We saw here. Then he has also used the word Madhusudana, right? O killer of the Madhu demon. So we saw previously, and Akanksha asked that question also, that is there a meaning as to why Krishna is being called by these different names and Arjuna is being called? And we said that, I said that that's because based on the context of what the situation is, that's how, based on the situation, a particular name is used. For example, in our familial dealings, we call somebody uh, based on the context. So for example, if we are close to someone and then it's a situation, it's a loving circumstance, then we use a nickname or a pet name we have. It's a form, and when we see the same person in a formal situation, then we use their full name. So it's the same idea and depending on the context also of how the situation was, Arjuna is referring to Krishna and Krishna is referring back to Arjuna. So that was number one thing. Number two, we can see some of the words here, right? Kingdom, family members, right? Fathers, swasura, relatives. So he's talking again. He's being compassionate and considerate. So we can see his compassion, but let's see what it all means actually. Now, translation. O Govinda, of what avail to us are a kingdom, happiness, or even life itself, when all those for whom we may desire them are now arrayed on this battlefield? O Madhusudan, when teachers, fathers, sons, grandfathers, maternal uncles, fathers in law, grandsons, brothers in law, and other relatives are ready to give up their lives and properties and are standing before me, why should I wish to kill them, even though they might otherwise kill me? O maintainer of all living entities, I am not prepared to fight with them even in exchange for the three words, let alone this earth. What pleasure will we derive from killing the sons of Dhritarashtra? Okay, so a few things that stand out in this verse. What is it? The first thing is, again, what avail to us are a kingdom, happiness, or life, right? When for those whom with we enjoy this are now arrayed on the battlefield. So again, Arjuna is looking at the outcome just like the previous verse. I don't want kingdom. I don't want happiness. In the previous, just the previous verse, we read the three things. He doesn't want victory, kingdom, or happiness. So why am I fighting? Same thing here. I don't want happiness. I don't want kingdom. I don't want life when there are no one left to enjoy life with. So again, a valid reason based on his familial bonds that Arjuna is sharing. That what can I do, Krishna? There is really no reason for me to fight when all those who I want to enjoy this kingdom with will be killed. Oh Madhusudana, right? We saw previously Krishna is referred as Madhusudana, right? Madhusudana means the killer of Madhu demon, right? Krishna killed that demon Madhu, who represents illusion in one way. So Krishna, Arjuna is kind of asking Krishna again that kill, oh you killer of illusion, you killer of these negative qualities, help me kill these negative qualities in my mind and help me see what's going on. So that's the subtle reference. When teachers, fathers, sons, grandfathers, maternal uncles, fathers-in-law, grandsons, brothers-in-law, and other relatives are ready to give up their lives and properties and are standing before me, why should I wish to kill them, even though they might otherwise kill me? So, when all of my relatives, people that I love, are ready to give up their lives and properties and are standing, let them kill me. But I don't want to kill them. I have respect for them. Maybe they have lost their respect for me. I don't want to be the one who takes love so cheaply and who can even fight for something such as this. Again, another valid reason that Arjuna gives, that let them kill me. Oh, maintainer of all living entities, right? So he uses a third name for Krishna, that is Janardana, that we saw here. So Madhusudana, we saw Krishna, we saw Govinda, and Janardana, oh maintainer of all living entities. What is he saying? I'm not prepared to fight. So now he's exclusively saying with them, even in exchange for the three words, let alone this earth. That what to speak, Krishna, you are saying that this is the war for our land, our earth, this Bharat Bhumi, that is not just the India, but the greater India back in the day. It was a huge tract of land that was part of this greater Bharata. I don't want to fight even for heavens. If they're saying for heavens, I don't want to fight for heavens. What to speak of this limited tract that we have? What pleasure will we derive from killing the sons of Dhritarashtra, right? So that's the main argument. The second argument is what is coming out of it? I don't see anything. What pleasure is coming out of it? Now, why does Arjuna call Krishna Janardana? It's an interesting point, right? Oh, maintainer of all living entities. Why? Because Krishna is Janardana means somebody who maintains all living entities. So he's asking that Krishna, you maintain all living entities. Then why is the burden on me to kill them when you are maintainer? How are you the maintainer in that situation? And Krishna, if you are maintainer, then you should kill them. You should take care of it. Why am I in this situation? So see again a subtle point here being referenced that you maintain living entities and here it's a killing situation. Help. See, you don't do you see something happening here, Krishna? Don't you see what I'm seeing? So then Arjuna is raising this point here, right? So again, he calls Krishna as Govinda because Krishna Govinda means the master of all senses. So when our senses get purified, we have five senses, right? We have eyes to see, ears to hear, nose to smell, right? Taste to our tongue to taste, and our sense of touch, tactile perception. So these five in the Vedas are called as five knowledge acquiring senses. That's how we get knowledge of the world. Because if you think clearly, how do we get knowledge about the world? It's through these five senses. We see something, we read about something, and we are like, yeah, that makes sense to me. Yep, we get new information. We hear something, or we taste something, and we identify, okay, what is the taste, and we get information about it. Or how do we touch something, or we smell something. So these five are knowledge acquiring senses. When these five get purified, in the sense that currently we are conditioned by a material lifestyle, we are conditioned by the limitations of our body, so we are unable to see the actual reality, right? The spiritual reality of this world that is still eluding us. When our senses are purified in the sense that when we are when our center of gravity or our center of mass is inwards, when we are looking inwards and we are trying to understand our spiritual nature, then the senses starts getting purified. And when they get purified, then we truly see what's happening in the world in its truest sense. And that's when we say that the Lord, the divinity is controlling our senses. So to that, that is called as that, that's the name of Krishna as Govinda. So he's saying that, oh Govinda, you control all the senses. Then why are my senses being disturbed? You help me. That's the subtle indication that Arjuna is giving. That you know everything. Then please understand my mind. Why is this situation here? So so Arjuna is saying that I don't see any reason to be in this battle, Krishna. I don't want to know. I don't know what's gonna happen. I don't want to see my maternal uncles, my relatives dying. I'm already feeling compassion for them. And after the compassion, I don't see any good that is coming out of it, Krishna. I really don't want victory. I don't want kingdom. And so now here I am stuck. Help me. What pleasure am I deriving from it? So that's the second reason of Arjuna, that I really don't want to fight this battle, Krishna. Right? And then here further explanation is given. All of you can, when you get a chance, you can look at your Bhagavad Gita. So the explanation from 32 to 35. A key point Srila Prabhupada has mentioned here, that Arjuna always, of course, wanted to show his opulence to his friends and relatives, right? That's why we do things for our friends and family. And then imagine if you are in a situation where you gotta kill them, what do you do? So he'll be unable to share his opulence. So this is the typical calculation of material life that Arjuna is thinking. Then we are also thinking that so much I will have for my family members, and I can enjoy and I can show and I can partake in them. That's a very material understanding. And again, at the outset, right, we are saying that Bhagavad Gita is a spiritual text in nature. It it is said, Albert Einstein once said, right, that you can't solve a problem with the same level of consciousness that created it, right? What does that mean? That means that if a problem has been created by one understanding, then you need an advanced understanding to solve that problem. So similarly, in the world that we are in, we are seeing so many problems in the society. We are seeing crime, we are seeing hate situations, hate crimes these days. We are seeing theft, we are seeing greed, we are seeing all kinds of these nonsensical situations that is happening, and especially in the present day and age, actually, and it's gonna increase. The Shastra, Vedic scriptures say it's gonna increase as the time passes. Why? Because these problems are material problems in a way. They are originating from our material perception of the world. That matter is meant for our enjoyment. And the more I enjoy, but at the expense of others, and that's where suffering happens. The Bhagavad Gita gives us a spiritual solution. So, material problems cannot be solved by material ways. We may try, and we may succeed to some extent, but the full reality of the solution won't manifest itself. You need spiritual solutions to material problems, because at the end of the day, it's the loss of our connection with our spiritual nature that is causing the problems in the first place. So, if we re-establish that spiritual nature, that spiritual understanding of the world, where we truly see the equality of living entities, where we truly see what is the purpose of my life, what is the purpose of that person's life, and how can we collectively achieve that purpose, that's when true equality comes together, and that's when we are able to solve these problems. So, that's why Bhagavad Gita becomes a relevant text no matter what situation we are in today. Some of us deal with physical health challenges, of our own or of our family members. Some of us deal with mental challenges, mental health. Some of us deal with monetary challenges. Some of us are dealing with challenges at work, professional challenges, intellectual challenges. We all face these things. That's the nature of this world, actually, that we are doused and we are engaged in these all kinds of sufferings that we don't want to participate in. The Vedic scriptures say that there are three main kinds of sufferings. Three main kinds. They are called as Traya Tapa. They are Adi Bhautik Klesh, Adi Devik Klesh, and Adhyatmik Klesh. Now, what do they mean? Adi Bhautik Klesh means difficulties and problems due to other living entities. So sometimes we want to do something, somebody else wants to do something, and we engage in a competition. Sometimes animals, insects, this COVID coronavirus, right, it's a living entity, it's causing us suffering. So sufferings that are caused by other living entities, it could be our friends, family members, our enemies, anybody in the world, or even bacteria, viruses, that's all forms that all comes under the Adi Bhautik Klesha category. The second category is Adi Devik Klesh. That means calamities or problems due to natural circumstances. For example, flood comes, right? In California here, the fire season will start. as summer comes on board. Then Texas right now is under the grips of a massive snowstorm, almost the eastern part of the country. Then in India, massive rains come every time. Places are flooded in India, right? Then there are earthquakes. So these natural calamities happen. So this is adi devic klesh. And then the third kind of suffering that happens is adhyatmic klesh, that is problems due to our own mind actually and our own body, that our own mind and our own body can sometimes give us suffering. So these three are the major kleshas or the major kinds of sufferings that living entities goes through. That's what the scriptures say. And why do they happen? Because we live and with an understanding that we are part of matter. We are living in matter and we are part of matter. Now, how do we overcome that? We need a spiritual solution. We can't solve this problem from the same level of consciousness that created it. We need advanced level of consciousness, and that's where Bhagavad Gita presents to us the advanced level of consciousness and the advanced understanding and the advanced spiritual understanding through which we solve this problem. And Arjuna, again, looking at the context, right? There's the immediate context and there is the broader context. So in the immediate context, Arjuna is experiencing these situations, but in the broader context, it's a commentary, it's a reflection on the life of all of us actually, how we are experiencing these things and how do we solve these problems, how do we apply our spiritual understandings to solve this. So that's why the relevancy of Bhagavad Gita through time and age is 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 extremely relevant in our life actually. It's apropos, it applies now, it applies now actually, and how we can transform and how we can see. And it gives us a framework to look at world from a different reality, from a spiritual perspective, which we can apply on us, we can apply on our friends, and it's going to mutually benefit all of us. So that's the framework that Krishna has given Arjuna here, which will come. So that's the reason, one of the reasons why, and I was talking to Bhushan earlier also, that's one of the reasons why we are spending so much time, especially in the first chapter, because we want to frame the problem correctly. Because once the problem is framed correctly, then the solutions will be immediately applicable to what is happening. So once the problem is framed, and it's again a common terminology, right? How problem solving is done, that you got to understand the right problem to solve, and then you apply the solution. So this is the framing. We are There's 8 minutes left before we reach the top of the hour mark, and there are two more reasons. 36 to 38 gives us the third reason, and 39 to 43 is the final reason. So I guess we can wait. Maybe in the next session, the third reason is not that big actually. So maybe third and fourth reason can be combined together. They are kind of related also in the next time that we meet. But I want to give a quick recap as to what we discussed and before we end. So we started with, again, it was a short session today because I wanted to still continue the progress but make sure that everyone else is on the call for our benefit and for our own understanding, and everyone gets benefited by this reading and by this discussion. So we looked at the context, right? What has happened, the battlefield. Again, we have been seeing since last 3 to 4 weeks, 5 weeks, that the battlefield is arranged. Arjuna is in between, he's seeing the war, and he doesn't want to fight. He gives the first reason, that I am feeling extremely compassionate. These are my brothers. How I can't kill my brothers for something so cheap. And second reason is again this victory. I don't care for victory, Krishna. Kingdom. I don't care for kingdom. You tell me, if you say that if there is heavens at stake, I won't fight for heavens. And then even if there is that, then who will I enjoy with if I kill all of them? If I kill them, then how, even if I win the kingdom, how will I enjoy that? Because it's all gone. The people that I'm meant to share with is gone. Krishna, what's the point of fighting? So, Krishna, please help. And that's why he's calling Krishna these various names, right? He's calling Krishna as Govinda because you are the master of all the senses. So, Krishna, you understand what my mind is saying, what my senses are saying, and help me. Then he's calling Krishna as Madhusudana. You killed the demon Madhu, so you kill these demoniac propensities in my mind and help me. And you are Janardana. You are maintain all the living entities. Then you maintain them. Why are we engaged in the activity of killing them when you are known as the maintainer? Help me, Krishna. So he's giving all of these arguments to Krishna. And Krishna, being his true friend, philosopher, and guide, Krishna is just listening to Arjuna's arguments, right? He starts speaking in the second chapter. Second chapter is where Krishna actually begins the flow of responses as to, okay, Arjuna, these are your doubts, here I'll explain. And we looked at that this immediate context is applicable in our our personal lives. Why? Because we go through these situations. There are three major kinds of kleshas, or three major kinds of sufferings that the Vedic scripture talk about. There is the Adi Bhautik Klesh, that is suffering due to other living entities. There is the Adi Devik Klesh, suffering due to natural calamities and natural situations and weather and climate. And there is Adhyatmic Klesh, suffering due to my own mind. So all of these three sufferings, they cause a lot of trouble to us. And how do we navigate these situations, these sufferings, and yet continue to function and understand our purpose in life? What am I here for? Is this solely for meant for enjoyment and for matter? Or maybe there is a higher calling, and maybe that higher calling already includes my relationship with the world, with money, with the world. Again, we have to understand that sometimes what people say is, and this is a common misconception with Bhagavad Gita, that people say that, oh, Bhagavad Gita means you have to give up every single thing and become a monk. That is a false understanding. Why? Because Bhagavad Gita was spoken on a battlefield to Arjuna, who was a warrior. And Arjuna kept on, and Krishna told, Arjuna is saying here, Krishna, I better give it all up and go to the forest. And Krishna is saying, no, 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 no. You fight, you do your duty, and you lead your kingdom. Because Bhagavad Gita is applicable to our lives. It doesn't give us an escapist model of life that just give it all up and become a monk. No, that's not the understanding of Bhagavad Gita. Many people take that understanding that Bhagavad Gita means giving up all material enjoyment and all matter, and give up your brothers and families and wives and kingdom and money. And no, 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 no. Bhagavad Gita means we develop a better model of understanding so that our relationship with these things help us in our ultimate purpose of life. So, money or no money, our purpose of life remains the same. Matter or no matter, family or no family, our sense of responsibility towards our spiritual life remains the same. That's the anchor that Bhagavad Gita is trying to give us. That you prioritize your spiritual life, but at the same time, you manage your material life. That's the understanding of Bhagavad Gita. That Arjuna leads, and then finally Arjuna, at the end of it, right, the war happens. The war goes on for 18 days, and after 18 days Arjuna and these guys are victorious. There's a lot of bloodshed that happens. Arjuna loses friends and family members, but at the same time then Arjuna continues to live as a king. And that's the teaching of Bhagavad Gita, that our situations, whatever we are faced in, we continue to face them, yet we have a higher understanding, a spiritual understanding of dealing with these, so that we are not controlled by matter. We control matter, we use it to our advantage, to our ultimate goal, and then we develop a better relationship with those. That's the point of Bhagavad Gita. And how do we navigate through the three kleshas, the three sufferings that I've talked about? And Krishna again talks about these three later, actually. He touches on them, but they are part of the Vedic canon. The Vedic scriptures talk about these things. So, to sum up, the Bhagavad Gita, again, Arjuna is giving compassion. Second reason is I don't see any enjoyment. And that's a reflection on our lives also, of how we lead, how we navigate through life while keeping our material attachments, our material relationships as it is, but transforming the way we engage with those. Why? Transforming the way we engage with the world, with our work, with our colleagues, as a spiritual entity, seeing them in that light, and then cultivating that relationship. Because that way we truly transform, and that way we truly fight these situations where we truly are able to solve these problems, because material problems require spiritual solutions, and Bhagavad Gita provides us that spiritual solution. Instead it gives us an entire toolkit of dealing with the world. Actually, okay, try this. If this doesn't work, try this understanding, try this. So it's an entire toolkit that is given to us, a framework that is given to us, under which we can operate and participate in the world without losing our sanity, without being affected by the things happening in front of us. Maybe we are not facing, there's a famous movie called I don't know if you guys have seen, it's called Fight Club. It's based on a book by Chuck Palahniuk. The book came out in the 90s, and then the movie with Brad Pitt came, right? And in that there is a very interesting quote that I'll share in the group also, that Brad Pitt talks to the narrator Edward Norton, and he says that our situation is not like, we are not facing a world war. We are not facing, our great war is a spiritual war, and our fight is with our own minds actually. And that's essentially the core conclusion of Bhagavad Gita, one of the core conclusions of Bhagavad Gita, that Arjuna, the reason why Arjuna is facing these things is because his mind is not his friend at this point. His mind is causing all these sufferings and all these problems, and he's unable to see. So how do we deal with our mind? How do we ensure that our mind becomes our friend and our guide instead of being our enemy and causes us all of these kinds of problems and creates these situations which do not even exist in the world. So that's another indication that we are seeing here, that Krishna will give exclusive instructions in the third and fourth chapter regarding the mind and how do we deal with the mind. So with that, we are at the top of the hour. Thank you again for joining. Bhushan, do you have any questions for me today, or just any thoughts
No.
regarding this discussion? Anything that you want to
Yeah,
share?
this was pretty good.
Good, nice. Thank you. I'm glad you liked it. So we did the second reason today. Next week, when we meet, we will continue with the third reason. And maybe we might be able to do third and fourth, both reasons together actually, because they are kind of related. So it may seem big at this point, 36 to 38, and then we have 39 to 43. They're kind of related. So we'll see how much we are able to accomplish. But after the second chapter starts, we'll pick up more pace actually. Then, because I want to frame the problem, and then once Krishna starts giving results, then we'll see. And then maybe we can come up with we can time box some of these things actually as we move forward. So thank you again for joining. I will post the recording in the group, and I want to make sure that everyone is able to join. So if there's any other time that works, then we can discuss that in the group also. But I want to make sure that everybody is on the call present and we can discuss that. So thank you again, Bhushan, for joining today, and thank you to whoever listens to this recording. I hope to see you guys in person, of course, and also on the call, so that we can truly interact and share this conversation. With that in mind, I'm stopping the share and stopping the recording also.